We've got a big injury update. The Rams are getting 2 key players back for Monday Night Football and first half awards. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do me a huge favor. Go to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, hit the like button. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade. 24/7 Sports, Dodgers Nation, Bleacher Report, SI. Also do radio for Westwood's One's coverage of the NFL. Today I'm flying solo. No Travis Rogers, the People's Champ, out today. But we've got a jam-packed show. We're doing first half award winners. We got MVP, biggest surprise, best rookies, biggest disappointments. We'll get to that. Also, big injury updates leading into Monday night's game against the Dolphins. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So it's always nice to play on Monday Night Football. You get showcased. You're on a big stage. SoFi will be electric. The Rams have a chance to go over 500 and really continue this season turnaround. But, man, it's a lot of waiting. And one of the things we're waiting on this week was the news on some of these Rams players that could play or could not play. So there's more good news than bad news when it comes to the Rams injury news these days. But let's start with the bad. The bad is that the foundational player for so many years, Rob Havenstein at right tackle, will not be playing against the Dolphins. He has been ruled out. Sean McVay said as much earlier this week. We knew that this was going to happen. We expected this to happen. But the good news about it is that he's not expected to go on the injured reserve and that he could be back the following week. And then we could really start to see some stability and cohesion built on this offensive line. Now, the good news, though, is the 2 hogs that we were hoping to get back this week, we are, and that is Steve Avila and Jonah Jackson. So Jackson was upgraded from limited to full in his second practice back from the injured reserve. He's expected to give it a go on Monday night against the Fins. And Jonah Jackson was the Rams' big offseason splurge. He was their biggest free agent signing. Unfortunately, he's been dealing with an injury pretty much the entire season. He had the scapula injury that he suffered during training camp. He re-injured it in the Rams' Week 1 loss to the Detroit Lions, and they need him to get going because that is the approach of this team. Is they want to establish that run game. They want to be big and physical, gap duo. They want to absolutely have that road grading style of offensive line with the improvement of Alaric Jackson, who's really looked very, very good since returning from that suspension. And you've had some of these surprises in Bo Limmer. Yeah, those guys are good. Those guys certainly have proved that they belong in this league. And I think Bo Limmer is going to be the Rams starting center down the line. But let's be honest, you invested in Jonah Jackson. Steve Avila really made his presence felt last year. He is someone who could be a perennial Pro Bowler. So it's nice to see those guys, the Bo Limmers of the world, kind of take more of a depth role and get these guys going. So you have Jonah Jackson's going to be back. And then you have Steve Avila. And then on top of that, Joe Noteboom, who's been on the IR since week 2, Sean McVay said he's going to be able to go. So I think that you'll have Joe Noteboom starting at right tackle. You could have Warren McClendon, but I think if Joe Noteboom is ready to go, he really should be the guy at right tackle. I think that if I had to bet on it, I see the Rams offensive line on Monday night as Alaric Jackson at left tackle, Steve Avila at left guard, Jonah Jackson at center, Kevin Dotson at right guard, and Joe Noteboom at right tackle. So that, to me, is the unit. That's the group that really is going to hopefully take this team to the next level. And you've been kind of waiting for this team to get healthy. Well, now this is the healthiest that they're going to be. You got the offensive line, the key cogs back. You have Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. They're back. you have Matthew Stafford, who's been able to stay relatively healthy all season long. And this is a perfect opportunity for this team to really make a statement on Monday Night Football, make a statement to the division, to the league, to the conference that, hey, we can play with anyone. We can beat anyone. Beating Miami is not a foregone conclusion because the Dolphins, especially offensively, with the balance of late, with Tua back, they almost beat the Bills. I mean, they were in that game. So it's not a guarantee you go out there and beat Miami because Miami wants to, hey, they want to scratch and claw and pray for a miracle with their season, right? So it's not going to be an easy task, but if you go out there, you take care of business, and you do what we've seen this team do for the last couple of weeks, the Rams should secure a victory and go above 500. And when they do that, you're really putting yourself in a good position to finish the season strong, and you're going to be able to reel off a good amount of victories to make a playoff push, and that's all we wanted from this group. So I think other things you're going to see as far as just the protection, hopefully continuing to get better, and Matthew Stafford has gone 2 straight weeks without being sacked, is that you see the run game continue to be the focal point and take pressure off of Matthew Stafford. Then you go and you open up with the pass because the defense is so committed, because you're using Kyron Williams, and also the screen pass. I mean, one of the more interesting developments has been Sean McVay going to that screen pass, and you saw how he utilized it in the Rams' TNF win over the Vikings. It was brilliant because, you know, Brian Flores' defense, he likes to load up on the line of scrimmage and play an ultra-aggressive style, and with 2 high safety looks, that's kind of how he controls things. He forces teams to go into the shotgun, and then you have to adjust with quick releases. And that really starts to limit that north and south run game because you're bringing that constant pressure. Offenses are forced to get the ball out quickly. And with those 2 high safeties, that works to limit that one-on-one matchup downfield. Well, Sean McVay, what he was doing with Puka Nacua against the Vikings, he goes to that screen game. You have the corners playing off the ball, and they were using it to get first downs. And once they adjusted back, then you had the Rams go to that north and south run game and pound the rock. So I think with Steve Avila back, you are going to see the screen game, the run game, everything get better. With Jonah Jackson at center, the same thing. You're going to see north and south get better. And we saw last season when this team was sitting at 3-6 and they were trying to do anything they could to get back in the mix and find themselves as a relevant football team. What did they do? They leaned on the run game. Matthew Stafford benefited because it was the first time in a long time that he had any semblance of a consistent run game. And I think that's the key to just maintaining his mastery of this offense, really. You don't want him throwing the football 35, 40, 45 times a game, right? That's not the recipe for the Rams' success. Their success is controlling the clock, hitting big plays, and pushing the ball downfield in great spots. But that's what really makes me very excited is we are in a situation where you found a way to get these wins with a lot of these key guys out. Now they come back, they're fresh, hopefully they stay healthy, and then you can really go on a run. Now, as far as the Dolphins side, Tyreek Hill did not practice on Saturday, and we'll see what his status is. Mike McDaniel said that he'll play if, quote, his body lets him. So, look, I mean, I'm pretty sure he's going to play. It's Monday Night Football. It's Tyreek. It's the Cheetah. He wants to put on a show, and that Dolphins team is desperate for him to be in the game and just wreak havoc for them because they need it. But still, I mean, is he at 100%? How does that impact the Dolphins offense? So it's something to keep your eye on as well. But this Rams team, I'm here to tell you, they're in a great spot right now. Everything that you're hearing about the confidence and the improvement and Chris Shula's defense, things clicking on that side of the football in different areas, they're only getting better with experience with a lot of the rookies and second-year guys. And the offense, hey, they're clicking as well. And I think that now they're going to hit their stride with these guys back. And we've been waiting all season long for this, and we were fearing that, hey, is it going to be 2022 all over again where you win 5 games, you bottom out, and it's a season of Squid Game with all the offensive linemen going out and all the different combinations. You had more offensive line combinations than the soda drinks at Sonic, right? Than the Oregon uniforms, right? You don't want that many combinations. You want consistency, cohesion, and that is what is going to be initiated on Sunday, minus Rob Havenstein. But getting those guys back and allowing them to do what they do best for the rest of this offense is really going to help them reach their max potential. And that's what we've been waiting for all season long, and it starts Monday. But coming up next, we got our first edition of the Midseason Awards. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. All right, let's talk about Mint Mobile. With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. I know you've had those experiences. You're at the store, you want the newest phone, and you're going to get it, and then you agree to something, and you get the bill. It's not what the guy said it was. You never have to worry about that with Mint Mobile. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. That's mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/lockedonnfl. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. All right, let's talk about FanDuel. NFL fans, you can start this season with a big return on FanDuel, of course, America's #1 sports book. If you get a hunch in the middle of the game and you think now may not be a bad time to get in there, you can check out all the latest stats. You can even view live play-by-play, and of course, there's so much more on the same page where you're placing your bets. So we're going to get you started at FanDuel with $200 in bonus bets. That's guaranteed when you play your first $5 bet. Let me say that again, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Now let's take a look at what's going on. The Rams taking on the Dolphins on Monday Night Football. The Rams currently 2.5-point favorites. The over-under sitting at 50.5 points right now. And you're going to see stuff like this and all the stuff that you want to see in the sports world and more over at FanDuel.com. So much more. You got to go to FanDuel.com and download the FanDuel app on your phone, and they're going to get you started with $200 in bonus bucks guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, a special shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams, Monday through Friday, and sometimes on the weekends. We cannot thank you enough. And you can join that Everyday Listeners Club too. You just watch or listen to every single episode of Locked On Rams, and then you won't miss a thing about your favorite team. Now, here in our second segment, we're going to take a look at the first half of the season. So we'll have plenty of time to continue talking about this Monday Night Football matchup on Monday's show. But I kind of wanted to look back because, look, just like that, you blink, and we're midway through the 2024 season. So we got our mid-season awards, starting with the surprise of the year. The surprise Rams football player of the year. And look, I could use this opportunity to take a victory lap and toot my own horn because I did say after the draft that Bo Limmer was going to be this year's version of Puka Nacua to a degree, in that he's the late-round pick that stepped up in a big way and emerged. Now, he's definitely not this year's Puka Nacua as far as his star potential, right? He's not going to be breaking all those records like Puka did as a rookie and really established himself as one of the best at his position in the league. But Bo Limmer has really stepped up when this team needed him. He's played all 8 games. He filled in while Steve Avila and Jonah Jackson were out. He's allowed just 10 pressures all season long. Just 10 pressures, has not allowed a sack. He has the potential. You see the strength that he plays with, and you go back and look at his tape at Arkansas. If you look at the strength, the measurables, he profiled as someone that could have a role in the National Football League. And I don't think that this is some flash in the pan. I don't think this is some aberration. I think that he has a chance to be a part of this offensive line even in the future, right? This is not just a one-year gig where, okay, he stepped up, he's a depth piece. No, I think he has the potential to be a long-term starter at center potentially for this team. We'll see what they end up doing with Steve Avila and Jonah Jackson down the line, but they got Bo Limmer for some time, and I think that he proved a lot in his role. And look, I think he still has a chance to have a role too. I mean, we'll see if guys stay healthy and what they have in store for him, but Bo Limmer, the surprise of the year. You could also say Jalen McCullough too, just an honorable mention. Jalen McCullough was a very close call too, because McCullough, I mean, he's intercepted 4 passes. He's had a pick 6. He's allowed 0 catches in coverage. So let me say it again. 4 interceptions, including interception to the house, and he hasn't allowed a catch in his opportunities. Now, he's not a full-time player, and that's why I didn't give him the nod, because Bo Limmer's been full-time with those guys out. But, I mean, Jalen McCullough, even when everyone is good to go, I mean, he's going to get an opportunity as well. And I think if you're any of these guys that are late-round picks that you just wanted to find a way to prove you could stick in the National Football League, if you're Bo Limmer and you're Jalen McCullough, you stepped up and you forced yourself. You absolutely forced this organization to use you in some capacity. So he was a close second. Now, Defensive Rookie of the Year so far, this was an easy one, and it's Jared Verse. Jared Verse has been an absolute beast for the Rams. He's everything that they would have hoped he would be, and then some. The Rams pick him up with the 19th pick in the 2024 draft. And I think you go back, and even if the Rams had the number 5 pick potentially, they probably would have taken Jared Verse. When you look at his production, right? I mean, you like Brock Bowers. You could have got a franchise left tackle, but you also needed someone that could get to the quarterback. And edge rusher is one of the most valuable positions in the NFL in 2024. And Verse doesn't just look like a perennial Pro Bowler. He looks like someone who could vie for some all-pros throughout his career, and that's a tremendous honor. I mean, he is really the front runner for Defensive Rookie of the Year at this point. He has 39 pressures, 3.5 sacks. He's hit the quarterback 10 times, 10 QB hits. That leads all rookies. So he's going to win Rookie Defensive Player of the Year if he stays healthy. Now, Braden Fisk, he's been fantastic in his own right as well. He's continued to emerge, but those 2 Seminoles, those 2 Florida State boys, man, they're nasty, and they're going to be for quite some time. Now, Unsung Hero Award. My Unsung Hero Award goes to Ajax. I'm giving it to Alaric Jackson. He's 5th amongst all Rams players with at least 100 snaps, with an offensive grade of 69. Is a pass blocking grade per PFF of 76.7. He's allowed 10 pressures. He's given up just 2 QB hits and 2 sacks. So since coming back off that suspension, he has played at an above average level at one of the most important positions in the sport, and that's the left tackle spot. So look, we know that this team, especially the Rams, when they're winning Super Bowls, you got a left tackle, right? If you don't have a left tackle, you're left out, whether it be Orlando Pace, whether it be Whitworth. I mean, they have a left tackle in place. That really is a cornerstone. Now, Alaric Jackson is not going to be one of those guys. But as far as the options out there, the draft options out there, when the last two drafts, they just didn't have that perfect fit to get that franchise left tackle. So Alex Jackson, when you look at the price and how inexpensive he is as a player, they've gotten a ton of value out of him, and he only is getting better. So he's my Unsung Hero award. No one's talking about Alex Jackson, but I am here on Locked On Rams. Now, coming up, we got Most Improved Player, the biggest disappointments, and who is the team's MVP? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. Now let's talk about our friends over at Hillsdale College. Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? History, economics, the great works of literature, the meaning of the United States Constitution. Did you study these things in school? Probably not, or even if you did, maybe it's time for a refresher. Time and technology have changed a lot of things, but they have not changed basic fundamental truths about the world and our place in it. Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses, including Constitution 101, the meaning and history of the Constitution, Introduction to Free Market Economics, The Great American Story, A Land of Hope, The Rise and Fall of the Roman Republic, and a brand new documentary-style course on Marxism, socialism, and communism. So a great place to go get your refresher on some of these topics if you already learned it, but also, hey, you guys are lifelong learners. You want to learn some new stuff, go check it out. It's free. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register, hillsdale.edu/lockedon. And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday and sometimes on the weekends. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, here in our third segment, we're going to pick it up, our Midseason Awards Part 1. And let's do the disappointments because this one's pretty obvious. And yes, I do always say there's no such thing as a bad one-year contract, but Trey White, it was kind of a little bit of a waste of time, and it definitely was a learning lesson for the Rams who, yes, they know how to get reclamation projects and make use out of them, but Trey White, he just didn't have it, and they signed him hoping that he can find that Pro Bowl form, that All-Pro form coming off an Achilles injury, and he just didn't have it. I mean, he played just 4 games before he was a benched player. There was a healthy scratch for weeks. He gave up 4 touchdown catches. He had 5 penalties. So he was giving up TDs. He was getting burned. He was getting torched. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr., he basically had his coming out party against him. And the other reason why it really sticks is the secondary. They just jumped. They got a lot better when he was benched and Darius Williams comes back. So, yeah, look, it's not going to be a big storyline at the end of the season because it's not like you went out there and you gave him this multi-year contract and tons of guaranteed money or anything like that. It was a 1-year contract that had incentives in there that would allow him to make a lot more money, close to $10 million had things worked out for him. But really, you lose about $4 million in this, and you end up trading him to the Ravens. So I think really got to give the Rams credit for, hey, they didn't force this upon you. They did what they needed to do. What must be done eventually should be done immediately, and they did that with Trey White, and that was the mentality. Now, a couple other ones, though, I will say, Colby Parkinson, you get him from the Seahawks. You sign him to a nice deal. He's supposed to be that red zone threat that really puts you in a spot to fill in for Tyler Higbee when he was out. And hopefully he was going to be that guy. Well, I mean, when he signed that deal, 3 years, $22.5 million deal with the Rams, I mean, you look at the annual, you look at the signing bonus. I mean, that's a deal where you say, okay, you need more production, especially when you look at the amount of targets that he was getting. But the truth is, I think when you're in the red zone, you feel better with Davis Allen. You've seen Hunter Long. I mean, Colby Parkinson, it's not over because you still have time to prove it. I'm not selling all my Colby Parkinson stock because you see the potential. He's a big target. He can get loose. He just has to find a way to make plays. But we're still in improvement mode with Colby Parkinson. And look, we talked about Jonah Jackson. We're still in improvement mode with him too. I mean, you could make the case that he's a disappointment as well just because he's gotten injured and he played in just that one game against the Detroit Lions. Now, I do feel good about the potential impact he could have down the stretch, so I'm pretty confident that he's going to be a major factor for this Rams team down the stretch run, hopefully into the playoffs. But Colby Parkinson's someone who's had those opportunities and just hasn't made the most out of them. Now, as far as team MVP, I saved this one for the end because it was extremely easy to call this one, and it has to be Matthew Stafford. Okay, as long as Matthew Stafford is on this team and he's healthy, he is the most valuable player. And he's the most valuable player because of his performance, because of the position he plays, because of the fact that he plays through injuries. He plays banged up. And yeah, if you look at his PFF grade, 62.2, it won't blow your mind. But if you asked defensive coordinators, if you asked coaches around the NFL to do a survey and add their own list, I guarantee you Matthew Stafford is a top 10 quarterback for most and top 5 for some, because the arm talent is still there. He's still a threat to make big plays down the field. I think that we're going to see something similar to what we saw last year, where he saved his best ball for the last 10 games of the season. And he has Cooper Kupp back. He has Puka Nacua back. He has his offensive line back. The best is yet to come for Matthew Stafford, and give him a lot of credit. I mean, he was missing his top dogs, and he's making things work with Demarcus Robinson, who has 4 touchdown catches in the last couple of games. He's making things work with even Tutu Atwell in certain spots, Jordan Whittington in certain spots, Tyler Johnson, right? So Matthew Stafford, he's someone who he should never have to buy a drink in Los Angeles. The fact that he won a Super Bowl for this franchise, but he's not done. He wants the gold jacket. He wants to play it. By the way, speaking of Demarcus Robinson, he's going to play as well. There was some doubt about Demarcus Robinson and an injury he was dealing with, and also Kevin Dotson. He's been dealing with something since week 2, since week 3, but they're both good to go. Nothing to worry about there. This team is going to be as healthy as they've been all season on Monday against the Dolphins. But Matthew Stafford, you're the MVP. We'll do some more awards on Monday as well. But this is going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.